Hello, my name is Penny Campriello, and I want to welcome you to Toxic Free Tuesday. This is the show where we help to find safe solutions for toxic problems. I am so excited about our show today. Today is all about the girls. We're going to be talking about all of the things that women use during the course of their day to make themselves feel beautiful. When most people think about toxic chemicals, they think about the things that may be in cleaning products. Unfortunately, there are many of our personal care products and cosmetics that actually have toxic chemicals in them, which are detrimental to our health. As a registered nurse and a life coach, my passion is to empower people to remove toxic chemicals from their lives so that they can improve their health. And when I was introduced to my first guest, Kimi, I was absolutely inspired by her story and what she is doing to help, like myself, to educate other people on the chemicals that are in the products that we're using every day. So I want to introduce Kimi Wright. And thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm just really excited. We have lots of girls on today, and Kimi's just the first one. Mm-hmm. So Kimi, I guess my first question is, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started on your toxic-free journey.
Well, to confess, a couple years ago, 2.5 years ago actually, I was kind of a product junkie. And so I loved trying any new products that were out in the market, hair products, skincare, makeup, whatever it was. I also enjoyed racking up those reward points at the different stores in town.
Right.
So I was a little bit of a product junkie, and then I was gifted some wonderful products, and I started to use them and saw some really nice effects to my skin, and decided I'm going to find out where to get these products. I had never heard of them before. So I Googled and found the company website, and that's where I started seeing their mission for educating families on the harmful chemicals used in personal care products we use every day. So I was shocked, to say the least. I began to learn that what I applied to my skin, which is our largest organ, does get absorbed into the bloodstream. It's something I had never considered before.
Right, I totally relate to that. I was in exactly the same situation. Even as a nurse, I knew that our skin was a barrier, but I failed to appreciate the fact that everything that we put on our skin is actually absorbed straight into the bloodstream. So.
Yes, and as I thought about it, it makes more sense because, especially as a nurse too, there's birth control patches and nicotine patches, and we see those all the time, and they're drug delivery systems that are dispensed through the skin. So it makes sense, but again, I had never ever thought of that. And so it was a little bit hard to believe about these harmful chemicals. I started doing my own research, and I just found source after source after source that confirmed it. And I just kept wondering, how is this not public knowledge? How are we not aware of this?
Right, I felt exactly the same. It was mind-blowing to me that companies can put chemicals into products that are actually harmful to your health.
Yes.
So that was a big eye-opener for me too.
And we've learned how to read our food labels, and so I know how to look for trans fats, and I know how to look for sodium content, but I had never grabbed that product off the shelf in the store and turned it around and look to see what the ingredients were in it.
Right, absolutely.
So I'm hoping we'll start doing that some more, especially as more and more people are understanding the importance of organic food. This is an area that we're not really taking a look at.
Right. I think one of the things that really amazed me too was the lack of regulations with our personal care products, and the fact that they are actually self-regulated, that companies don't get any government funding to test their products for safety. They actually rely on the manufacturer themselves to do that testing. So that was a big thing for me too.
Yes, I was naive to think that there was some safety testing protocols in place. I think that we all assume that. If we can buy it in the store, then it's safe for us to use. To some extent, but that's not the case. Dr. Samuel Epstein, he is the former head of the Cancer Prevention Coalition, and he says that it is more dangerous to put a product on your skin than to eat it.
Right, agreed.
And I'm kind of a visual person, so that makes me think about taking a bite out of my deodorant, and I get this like chalky taste in my mouth. That's disgusting.
Right.
But the reason why is because whatever we eat, our body has normal ways to detoxify what we eat. But what we put on our skin gets absorbed into the bloodstream without that same process.
Right, exactly.
So I've learned how to make safer choices in that regard.
Right. I know the subject is really personal to you.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it is personal to me. In my early 20s, I had a doctor connect some symptoms that I was experiencing to a polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. And it's very common these days. It affects up to 1 in 10 women. It has to do with an hormonal imbalance. And I was then told that I would either have difficulty getting pregnant, have a higher chance of miscarriage, or might not be able to have children at all.
Wow.
And this is becoming more and more common. There's 7.3 million American couples struggle getting pregnant or keeping a baby to full term. So my story is not as unique as you would think, unfortunately. So when I began learning about endocrine disrupting chemicals found in personal care products, it struck a chord with me because I have to go see a specialist once a year, an endocrinologist.
Okay.
And I began to think about all the products, all the skincare and makeup that I'd been slathering on my skin for all these years that were further disrupting my own endocrine issues.
Right.
And that floored me.
I just want to say for those people that may not be familiar with the term endocrine disruptors, they are a group of chemicals that research has actually shown that does affect the endocrine system. The endocrine system in our body actually controls a lot of our functions. We have parts of the endocrine system controls the way that we sleep. It controls our heart rate, it controls our blood pressure, our digestion. It controls the way that we metabolize sugar in our body, so that can also contribute to weight gain. But one of the big ones that we talk about is it affects the reproductive system too. And that would be, a big reason why people could be suffering from infertility, and for sure infertility is definitely on the increase. Like you say, Kimi, there's a lot of couples nowadays that seem to be suffering from infertility.
Yes, and it's a very painful journey for many, many people.
Right.
And the endocrine system, it regulates brain and nervous system development.
Right.
And growth and function of the reproduction system, like you mentioned, metabolism, blood sugar levels, you mentioned those, ovaries, testes, pituitary, thyroid, and the adrenal glands. And we always hear about people having thyroid issues these days as well.
Right, that's another thing that's on the increase too.
So I decided to sign up with this company as an independent consultant, and I began learning more through my training and also through just connecting with like-minded people. And you've been a part of that journey now too, which is exciting. But since then, it's also personal because my dad passed away from an aggressive form of prostate cancer just about 1.5 years ago. At an early age, came on. 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will now be diagnosed with cancer sometime during their lifetime. My grandmother has Alzheimer's, and there's over 5 million Americans living with Alzheimer's, and they expect that by 2025 it's going to increase to 7.1 million. And those are staggering numbers. And then we talk about autism. 1 in 68 U.S. children, and that's 1 in 42 boys, is being identified on the autism spectrum disorder. And that is up from 1 in 88 in 2012. So with those kinds of statistics, I think it's personal for all of us. We all are affected by those.
I totally agree with you. And, when I found out some of those statistics, it was really scary. And you want to share those things with everybody and say, did you know about this? And I think for me anyway, I had to come to realize is that, there are solutions. It's not just all about the problem, it's about the solution too. And that's what our Toxic Free Tuesdays is all about. And that's why we have you here today, because I know that you do have You've done a lot in the way of education for people, and you're helping people to read labels and
Yes.
things like that. So,
And I want to be clear to say that I'm not saying personal care products are the sole issue for those statistics.
Right,
but
absolutely.
I think that they are a piece of the puzzle that we're not addressing. And so I'm passionate about sharing that information with other people.
right, I totally agree with you. I think that we're exposed to chemicals from all avenues of our lives, and there are so many things that we really have no control over, that when you look at our personal care products, those are one thing that we actually can do something
Absolutely.
about. So,
Absolutely.
where did you start?
Well, I started with checking my product labels, and I began to look at prioritize what do I put all over my body. So I thought about lotion, and then I thought about what do I put in the areas that have more hair follicles. So shampoo, conditioner, and deodorant. I started in those certain places. I also went through my cupboards and started reading all those product labels. Many of them I had to use a magnifying glass for. And
Yep.
I returned them to the store. I took them back and I looked for safe products there, and when I couldn't find them, I got toilet paper and I stocked up. I also stopped using things like dryer sheets. I switched out laundry detergent. I threw away air fresheners and candles, but that's a whole nother conversation. I won't get off topic there.
Yeah, that's the fragrance is a whole nother show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then as I used up products, I would then find safe alternatives. You know, it's overwhelming to think about changing everything at once, but I believe that small steps can really add up, and
Right.
setting a few priorities and then just changing them out as you go along, I think is a really wise approach.
Right. I don't know about you, but the one thing that I found was that, you know, when I help people to make decisions about products, and I say, you know, this is not good, this is good, a lot of people get confused because when they see the label, it may say that it's eco-friendly, or it's environmentally friendly, or it might have a nice picture of a flower on the front. And unfortunately, there's something in the industry that's called greenwashing.
Yes.
And what they do is, it's the manufacturer's way of pretending that their product is safer than it actually is. So that's why reading labels is much more important than just looking on the front of the product.
Yes.
You really need to get down into the nitty-gritty. So what should we be looking for on our labels?
Yes, well, as you said, the marketing can be really tricky. I was even reading up on one of Harvard's School of Health's website, and they had a really interesting quote about under a law that has not been updated since 1938. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Pre-World War II, the U.S. FDA has little power to regulate the ingredients in personal care products. And so even known offenders such as formaldehyde, triclosan, and phthalates are still legally permissive in product formulations. And companies are allowed to label their products organic, natural, or hospital approved based on their own interpretations of those terms.
Right, and yeah, you do see dermatology approved or hospital approved, and that doesn't actually mean that there are not harmful chemicals in there.
Yes.
Right.
So, as you mentioned, we can't trust marketing. We can't trust
Right.
any of those terms. We can't trust the little green leaves that make everything look so nice and natural. And I know, the unfortunate thing is, I know that there are many families and parents who are trying to make safe choices but are being misled. So here's a few things
Right.
to start taking a look out for. The first one I'll mention is fragrance, and it can also be listed as parfum or perfume on a label. It's a nasty loophole in the industry where manufacturers can legally hide hundreds of ingredients underneath
they
that
can.
term. And so whenever I see fragrance listed, I know I have no idea what's in there, and I find out that this knocks out about 95% of the products that I look at.
Right.
So usually it's a good deciding factor whether or not to look at the other ingredients. So more than 75% of products with fragrance are legally hiding phthalates, and phthalates are known endocrine disruptors, again,
Right.
that term. They're linked with birth defects, breast cancer, diabetes, obesity, autism, and ADHD in the first and third trimesters of pregnancy.
Right.
Now, there's also a tricky thing where I'll see some products that claim to be natural and they list natural fragrance. But again, that's a red flag to me because they're not disclosing every ingredient. So how can I make a decision to know whether or not this is safe for me and for my family?
Right,
So-
and I think a lot of decisions actually come down to us and what we're comfortable with.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the times it is a personal issue. You know, what some people may feel comfortable with, other people won't. So.
Right. But having the information, then knowing what to do with it from there as a personal choice.
Exactly.
I think.
Then it's your choice. But being informed is first and foremost.
Yes.
So what else we got on the list
The
there?
next group are parabens.
Okay.
I've even seen some products out there that are listing themselves as paraben-free. And again, don't trust just the marketing because it could have just as harmful chemicals also in the formulation.
Right.
They are groups of compounds used as preservatives that are derived from petroleum. Endocrine disruptors, again, mimic estrogen and are suspected to be linked with breast cancer. And there's been a study linking BPA and methylparaben with breast cancer, and the combination blocked the effectiveness of cancer drugs, including tamoxifen.
Wow.
So parabens, there's many different kinds, but definitely look out for those in your labels. The next one is triclosan. And triclosan is an active ingredient in antibacterial products. It's also an endocrine disruptor. I'm going to keep saying that. We'll get tired of hearing that, but it's in everything.
We'll get tired of hearing it.
Triclosan is registered with the government as a pesticide.
Yeah.
Red flag. Big red flag. It's shown to weaken muscles, including the heart muscle, and contributes to liver and inhalation toxicity. And studies continue to show that hot water and soap are just as effective. And so
Right.
antibacterial products really aren't doing us much good and are even doing us some harm in this effect.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware, Kimi, where triclosan became popular. Originally, triclosan was a chemical that is added or was added to the scrub soaps that surgeons used in the hospital in order to kill bugs before they did surgery.
Wow.
And then over the years, everybody jumped on the bandwagon and started adding triclosan to all different kinds of products. And you'll find it in some toothpaste. You'll find it in personal care products, soaps. But one of the most popular places that you'll find it is in the little hand sanitizers, usually that are at the entrance of the store.
Yes.
And it's really not a good thing to be putting on. So always look for triclosan free when you're looking for your hand sanitizers. It is a pesticide.
I used to use those all the time.
Yeah.
And I've also seen triclosan in toothpaste
Yeah.
and shaving gels. So it's
Yeah.
a number of different things. Next, and of course I can't highlight all the chemicals in this short amount of time,
Right.
but there are actually over 80,000 used in products. The U.S., we only ban 11. Europe bans over 1,300, and I'm just highlighting a few of the the products that are used, the ingredients that are used regularly.
The worst offenders.
Some of the worst offenders, yes. So the next one are oxybenzone and octinazate, and these are also endocrine disruptors. They're chemical UV ray filters. They're found in many sunscreen and SPF products, and they can generate cell-damaging free radicals. And then finally, aluminum, which is active ingredient in deodorants.
Most deodorants, yeah.
It's a bioaccumulative neurotoxin, so it stores in your fat cells and accumulates, and it destroys nerve tissue.
Right.
So those are just a few to get started with. But again, a red flag is any company that won't disclose all the ingredients that they're using on their product. If I don't know what's in there, or if they're putting things under the term fragrance or natural fragrance, that's a red flag for me, because I'd like to know what's in it.
Right. I'm totally with you on that. So what happened for you? You had a big surprise.
Yes. Yes, a very sweet surprise.
Yes.
I certainly
There
didn't.
she is.
There she is. There she is. I certainly did not expect to get pregnant. I just didn't want this junk in my body anymore, and I didn't want it to further be messing up my endocrine system. But 8 months later, 8 months after I started making these changes, I got pregnant. And because my cycles were so irregular with PCOS, that's one of the symptoms, I did not even find out till I was 10 weeks along. So
Wow.
it shows you how shocked I was. I wasn't looking for this at all. But my daughter was born almost a year ago, last July.
And she's beautiful.
Thank you. And of course, getting pregnant at any age is precious, but having your first baby at 38 is is a sweet gift. It's a sweet gift. So
Congratulations. I know I've seen her. She's gorgeous. So what would be your recommendations for anybody who is thinking about getting pregnant? This is something that's really close to my heart. I'm a pediatric nurse, and I do a lot of education for pregnant moms. But for you, what do you recommend for them?
Definitely. Well, over 200 industrial chemicals and pollutants have been found in babies' cord blood, many of which are harmful to the brain and nervous system, cause cancer, and or cause birth defects and abnormal development.
Right, that blew me away.
What we put on our skin prior to getting pregnant and during pregnancy is very, very important. The rate of premature births in the United States is one of the highest among the developed world. 1 in 10 babies born in 2014 arrived before 37 weeks of pregnancy. And there's an emerging body of research connecting preterm birth with in utero toxic exposure to chemicals. And then also Time Magazine had a great article. Once you start looking for this information, you find it everywhere.
Yeah, it gets kind of scary. You start and you end up down a rabbit hole, and it can get kind of scary. But I think the thing that they need to know is try and avoid the toxic chemicals if you know that you're going to get pregnant.
Right. Or
you find out that you are pregnant, because a lot of the times we don't know we're pregnant until we're actually pregnant.
Yes. So this article in Time Magazine talked about how women who had higher levels of 2 different types of phthalates that can be under that term fragrance products, how that was linked with an increased risk of asthma, 72% and 78% increased risk. And of course, here in the Central Valley, we already have enough issues with air pollution and environmental pollution. So asthma affects 1 in 5 kids here in the Fresno County. Wow. And so to be able to do what we can to help pregnant moms and babies born as healthy as possible is really important.
So I know that what you do now is you help other people to find safer alternatives, and I know that you help moms to read labels. So how can people get hold of you if they have questions?
Absolutely. Well, you'll see my information at the bottom. My website is Pure by Kimi, KIMI.com. My email address is Kimi@purebykimi.com, which is easy. Also, my cell phone number in the area, 559-999-5932. A lot of 5s and a lot of 9s. There we go. But I love to connect with people to help them read their product labels, help them connect with how to find safer products and how to make healthier choices. It's really become a passion, and I have sweet evidence of what that can lead to now.
Right. And I actually do have Kimi's permission to post this a recording of this video on my website, which is toxicfreejourney.com. So if there's any information in here you want to rewatch it again, or you want to be able to send it to somebody else, then it will be on the website, and it will also be on centralvalleytalk.com. So I want to say thank you to Kimi for coming in today, and I know that I'm going to have her back because we have lots more to talk about.
I'd love to.
So, thanks.
Thank you.